The UN Secretary General is calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Antonio Guterres alleging violations of international law have been committed in the enclave since the conflict broke out. The comments made at a high-level session of the UN Security Council angering Israel and prompting a tough response.
Let me be clear. I'm deeply concerned about the clear violations of international humanitarian law that we are witnessing in Gaza. It is important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation.
Abigail, 3 years old. Tell me, what is a proportionate response for killing of babies? How you can agree to a ceasefire with someone who swore to kill and destroy your own existence? How?
Now, Jordan's King Abdullah has told the French president that Israel needs to be pressured by global powers to end its war in Gaza. The comments made in Amman come as Emmanuel Macron continues his tour of the Middle East. Macron will also be meeting Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi later on today. His visit comes a day after he sat down with Israel's leadership to show France's solidarity in the wake of the October 7th attack. He also met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah yesterday to reiterate Paris's commitment to a two-state solution. Jordan's Queen Rania has broken her silence since the events of October 7th broke out and the Israeli response to Hamas in Gaza. In an interview to CNN, the monarch, who has Palestinian roots, criticized what she called Western hypocrisy when it comes to calling out crimes committed by Israel.
I think the people all around the Middle East, including in Jordan, we are just shocked and disappointed by the world's reaction to this catastrophe that is unfolding. In the last couple of weeks, we have seen, a glaring double standard in the world. When October 7th happened, the world immediately and unequivocally stood by Israel and its right to defend itself and condemned the attacks that happened. But what we're seeing the last couple of weeks, we're seeing silence in the world. Countries have stopped at just expressing concern or acknowledging the casualties, but always with a preface of declaration of support for Israel. And, are we being told that it is wrong to kill a family, an entire family at gunpoint, but it's okay to shell them to death? I mean, there is a glaring double standard here, and it is just shocking to the Arab world. This is the first time in modern history that there is such human suffering, and the world is not even calling for a ceasefire. So the silence is deafening, and to many in our region, it makes the Western world complicit, through their support and through the cover that they give Israel, that it is just its right to defend itself. Many in the Arab world are looking at the Western world as not just tolerating this, but as aiding and abetting it.
We can now bring in Julien Barnes-Dacey, Director of the Middle East and North Africa Programme at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme today. You just heard there from Queen Rania calling out the double standards from many Western governments, something her husband reiterated a couple of days ago. Where are Europe's morals when it comes to what's going on in Gaza?
Well, I think that there are a lot of questions being asked related to that at the moment. Clearly, as Queen Rania said, there was an immediate, strong emphasis of solidarity with Israel in response to Hamas's initial attacks. But that solidarity has not combined itself with similar solidarity to Palestinians who are now suffering under the onslaught of this Israeli attack. And it's raising questions not just across the Middle East, but across the wider global South, and increasingly even within kind of popular voices across Europe, in terms of how can Europe, on the one hand, make these claims not just related to the attacks by Hamas, but also to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and then not be willing to be more emphatic in holding the same values when it comes to protecting and defending Palestinian lives.
Exactly. It just really exposes the hypocrisy, because we we have today 2,700 children who have been killed since the 7th of October over in Gaza. A lot less children were killed in Ukraine by Russian strikes, yet European leaders were very quick to call those deaths out and call out those alleged Russian war crimes, but not discuss the crimes that are going on in Gaza.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to the nature of kind of the European relationship at large with Israel. There's clearly a closeness there. There was clearly a kind of a personalized kind of sense of brutality associated with Hamas's attacks. The Palestinians, as many people have said for a long time, have very much, in a sense, been depersonalized in the Western political imagination. They've been living under siege, locked away for so long now. And in a sense, it means there isn't that same connection, that same political affinity you see between Europe and Israel. But questions are being asked, and it is raising hard questions, because the global South is putting them on the spot. Middle Eastern leaders are putting them on the spot and saying to them, well, these Palestinian lives surely should matter. Yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. Yes, it committed brutal acts of terror. But surely the indiscriminate violence being unleashed against Palestinian civilians now is not worthy of kind of European values in the same sense.
Exactly. I wanted to talk about the global South, because in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we did see Europe try to rally the global South and get them to back Ukraine and stand up to Russia. Clearly, Europe has lost any moral high ground now in the wake of what has happened and its reaction.
Well, Europe is scrambling. Clearly, there have been some intra-European debates and divisions over this. You saw van der Leyen, the EU, the president of the EU
She's
Commission,
getting a lot of flack for her response.
And was criticized because she didn't mention international law and the need for Israel to comply with that. She was criticized by none less than Joseph Borrell, the EU's head of foreign policy, who said that actually she shouldn't be speaking on those issues. And he's been very vocal in talking about the need for international law. And you see similar divisions across European states. The Germans and the UK lining up very strongly behind Israel. Other states like Ireland and Switzerland being more vocal about humanitarian law. But all that being said, I think the reality is, even where there is cause for international law to be applied, there is very little willingness to match that with meaningful pressure on the Israeli government to actually implement that. So in a sense, there's broad talking points, but there's an unwillingness to engage in pressure on Israel on the back of the Hamas attacks.
Let's talk about this whistle-stop tour that the French President Emmanuel Macron is on of the Middle East. Will anything come out of it, considering that most countries in the Middle East do not consider Hamas a terrorist organization?
Bottom line, no, I don't think much will come out of it. Not because of the position on Hamas, but mostly because the key actors here are the US and perhaps on the other side, the Iranians. It's the US, which is the one country that can really pressure and push the Israelis to have a change of military strategy. On the other side, it's Iran that has important influence not just on Hamas, but on other groups such as Hezbollah, with the threat of a broader multi-front conflict hanging over this. So, yes, Macron is in the region. Yes, he's trying to create some avenues for progress that helps the Palestinians, that brings back into sight the need for a political track. But he, like others, has given his full solidarity with Israel. He's talked about an anti-terror campaign along the lines of the anti-ISIS campaign, which won't go down very well in the Arab world, given the sense that Hamas is not just a terrorist organization, but a result of Palestinian political marginalization, a result of the fact that Israel has been occupying Palestinian land for decades now without any Western response.
Julien, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. That was Julien Barnes-Dacey there.